My name is Rich, and I am what some people refer to as a naturalist. Now, some may wonder what is a naturalist. In a way, it's a teacher. Not quite a scientist, but somewhere in between. Now, something unique about my perspective is that I'm also an artist. Now, I always wondered, how does an artist make his or her way into education? And more importantly, how does one use art for education of science? Now, there's a parallel, I feel, between science and art, where you are viewing the world, be it natural or maybe within, and trying to find ways of communicating this to an audience that is not yourself. And that can prove quite difficult, as art is an abstraction and scientific language, well, a lot of people don't have a clear schooling or understanding of it. So after working on the whale watch for a few years, noticing when approaching whales, we don't know them by their full bodies, but rather their tails, or their flukes. This is something that I would always associate with whales. So naturally, as an artist, I began exploring this figuration. So what we have done here is constructed flukes, and these flukes are interactive. I don't know about you, but I find that the memories best remembered are those that are indeed tactile. So these flukes have been orchestrated in a way that patterns can interact with them themselves. So let's say a wee one goes on a whale watch when they're 5 years old. They may not remember all of the incredible scientific information you may have shared with them. They may not remember the species names of plankton, but they will perhaps remember these particular physical encounters. Now, what is also something we come across when whale watching, especially if you're out of a hub like Boston, go Sox, you will find that some passengers may not speak your own language, and some of them may be sensory impaired. So that becomes a whole new obstacle in education. But however, again, these are three-dimensional. Most whale watch passengers experience whales with their eyes, but for those who cannot, you can actually feel the very edges here. Come on, give it a feel. Yes. So they are each handcrafted and carefully carved so that passengers can actually feel and get a better sense for the physicality of the fluke. Now, sometimes you might find yourself on a boat where you have hundreds of people, where it's like speaking to an auditorium in the brine of the Atlantic or the Pacific for you guys. So in that event, sometimes we go a little bigger. Sometimes we will encounter very unique patterns. So on Stellwagen Bank on the Massachusetts Bay, we have a female humpback whale named Nile. So we do recognize Nile for the left side of her tail, which looks like a river delta seen from a hot air balloon. Nile was born in '87, and she's one of our particular favorites, and in the events that we ever encounter her on the trip where I have this fluke at the ready, well, it's quite kismet. Now, something we've discovered while creating these tail patterns. Sometimes in the wild, you may not get to see that part of the animal. Sometimes it is obscured underwater. In that event, you might have to recognize Nile by this part of the fluke alone. That means there's no hierarchy in scientific illustration where attention must be given to every part of the tail. Now these tails, they are not taken from actual whales, they are made out of wood. And I like to take advantage of such a medium to illustrate other points. Again, back to these miniaturized flukes we have here, miniature in comparison, I suppose. Unfortunately, sometimes we find whales do become entangled, and the Center for Coastal Studies out of Provincetown, Massachusetts, does have a rescue team. However, that rescue team, they are only a band-aid to fix the great wounds that is entanglement. And sometimes you might find a whale that had been entangled, but not currently at the moment. And you may wonder, well, how does one know if the whale has been entangled? Well, you will find these very strange white markings towards the base of the tail, and they are created actually by the friction you see here when fishing rope wraps around the base of that tail. So here we have an explanation behind some of those markings in the fluke pattern. So though sometimes it can be random, you never want to assume the source of the scar. Now, talking about these wooden flukes here, I have found that there are other avenues to take to speak of entanglement and boat strike and anthropogenic threats. For those of you in the room that may recognize this whale from the Stellwagen bag, this is a last named Venom. Venom is quite a whale indeed. She is named after white markings caused by entanglement. This is a work in progress. I have not painted those in just yet. But Venom was not born like this. At some point, she did have herself an entire tail, seen here. So we are experimenting here at Tales of Stellwagen with some quite basic terminology. Magnetized flukes is the next step that I'll be taking here. So quite an impact on education this would have. If you could have a fluke that disassembles before your passenger's very eyes to emphasize the vulnerability of these seemingly invulnerable creatures. Yes, so there we have it. This is a foray into art as a tool for communicating science. Now, these flukes I make here, they are available to other naturalists of other whale watch companies and aquariums who maybe need a helping hand in expanding their language and educating science. So, for any parties interested, you can contact me through my YouTube channel, or you can find me at Tales of Stellwagen on Instagram or Etsy. Also on my website at richardwdolan.com. And we do thank you so kindly for your time and your passion for the oceans. And I hope together we can create more stewards for our planet. And we thank you. Until next time, oats on the water. This has been Rich, logging off, periscope down.